From AIT Studios in Abuja, Nigeria, this is the O&M Late Show with Obiora Ilo and Mamode Akuga.
Hello there. Welcome to another edition of the O&M Late Show. I am Obiora Ilo and Mamode is here.
Obiora, of course, a lot of people out there waiting up till this time to watch us. Thank you so much for staying up late to watch the O&M Late Show. Obiora, it's another Friday night, and of course, time to take a look again at one very important issue affecting Nigeria.
Very important. A lot of people say that the Nigeria Labour Congress is the soul and conscience of our nation. And when the soul is in disarray, what happens to the nation? So today we'll be looking at the unsuccessful NLC elections and the crisis within.
Yes, well, not just unsuccessful, crisis reading.
Crisis reading.
Yes.
We'll be having stakeholders in the course of today's program. But before we talk about all that, residents living around the Afokang prison in Calabar, Cross River State, woke up yesterday with gunshots and people running helter-skelter because there was another attack on a prison in that area. And we heard that in the process, a number of people, prisoners were released, were freed. As we speak, we don't know how many people were wounded or if anybody lost their lives. But this is becoming a tradition.
Yes, I was just going to say, Obiora, and I think we need to look at it sometime on the show. It's becoming extremely easy for a group of people to storm any of our prisons.
Whether maximum or minimum.
Minimum security or maximum security. Just storm the prisons and, just release people. And not much seemed to, been put in place by the necessary authorities to stem the tide of these prison breaks. It's happening too frequently now, and I think we need to take a very good look at it and, talk to government and see how government can, check what is happening from the prisons.
Yeah, because the prisons are supposed to be one of the most secured areas in the country.
Meant to keep deviants
in check.
And out of society.
We thought it was a Boko Haram thing, and because I know that we had a lot of it around the Maiduguri, Borno area.
Yes.
But for this to happen in places like Calabar and everything, then it means that some people are not doing their jobs, and we are begging them to do their jobs.
Yes, Obiora. Now, this is rather interesting, because residents in central part of Adamawa State, they disclosed that they saw helicopters dropping pamphlets and flyers. And guess what was in those pamphlets? These are members of Boko Haram, repented members of Boko Haram who were dropping these, pamphlets, so some sort of atonement for their sins. And they confessed that they were brainwashed by some leaders of the sect to loot, destroy property, and kill innocent citizens.
Actually,
yes.
Actually, that was what the residents thought.
Yes.
They actually thought it was Boko Haram that was dropping all those leaflets.
Yes.
But it turned out that it was the military using helicopters to distribute these pamphlets telling people to embrace peace, trying to reach those that have been brainwashed, those that were fighting for Boko Haram, and make them turn around. I think it's a good step.
Yes,
it's a good step because we've talked about, you and I, we've talked about what kind of human beings are these? What are they being told? If you say somebody is being brainwashed, did they open their brains and then
wash it?
Because when you see the things they do,
detergent. No, but the hypnosis that takes place when you have to convince somebody to take a machete or take a gun and go kill somebody else. A lot of people might think that, you have to use some kind of African jazz, if you know what I mean, voodoo and that kind of thing. But, modern science can have some explanations in this regard, where you can, actually put somebody under some hypnosis and then, have some kind of control over the person, tell the person what to do, and it just goes over to do those things.
It's unfortunate. I just hope and believe, because like the report said, they thought it was Boko Haram, then later on they thought it was our military. I just hope it's our military, because this war is not only going to be fought with bayonets or guns.
There's a propaganda aspect.
Yes,
the propaganda
or the tanks, or the drones. We also have to work on the psychology of those that are joining the ranks of Boko Haram.
Little victories against Boko Haram, Obiora. 158, hostages freed and reunited with their families. No,
Mamode, I don't agree with you. They are not little victories, knowing where we are coming from.
Well,
I want to say they are major victories.
Major victories.
Do you know that I never knew that anyone can go into Sambisa? But we understand that our soldiers are in Sambisa. They are clearing.
Yes, there's even air raids now in Sambisa forest. I think that these 6 weeks that, our government has said in 6 weeks they will achieve some major victories. I think already
the victories are being achieved.
Yes, it's not 2 weeks yet, and we are seeing some signs of major victories. As you said, major
victories. And I'm hoping, and hoping sincerely, that the Nigerians that talked down on our military, blamed our military, said they were incompetent, that they will change again and say that they are trying, because our military men and women,
yes,
they are doing a lot now to, prove that
our military. I think the problem was just the necessary ammunition, equipment that they needed to prosecute the battle against Boko Haram. And of course, how difficult our government found it, trying to buy these ammunition from countries outside, and then there were other countries blocking it, making it impossible for Nigeria to get this. Now, we have seen also that the Cameroonians are saying that they've captured some French nationals who are fighting on the side of Boko Haram. What is that?
And you know what's going on? France says those terrorists have to be released to them so they can go try them in their country.
I think that issue...
Is it military imperialism or political imperialism?
I think it's both military, political, and some of these European countries still have a mentality that, we are still somewhere in 1960, 1950.
I don't understand
something, the colonial era is still not over.
These were people that killed Nigerians, killed Nigerians, killed Chadians, killed Cameroonians, and then they won't try them in the territory where the crimes were committed.
And they want to move them back to France. And I think that this matter should not just be left for the Cameroonians alone. Nigeria needs to take a very, very serious interest in what happens to the French nationals.
And I think we also commend whoever is responsible for this, for making it possible for those that have been freed to be rehabilitated. We understand that some of the women who lost their husbands, some were given 50,000, some were given 30,000 to help them start afresh. And I think that, I must say that there are some positive things coming from the government.
We are seeing those positives now. We wish that they will continue. Now, coming back to the issue today, the Nigerian Labour Congress tried to have its elections, and it turned out to be something like PDP and APC. So these are people who criticize the political or the politicians, so to speak. Somehow their own elections ended like a battle between PDP and APC. We'll be talking to some of...
that the information we have is that, some people wanted to disqualify some people wanted to resist being disqualified and all that. And these are things we hear, like you said, between PDP...
From party primaries.
And all that.
Later on, we're going to be joined by the Secretary General of Nigerian Labour Congress, Dr. Peter Ozo Ezon, and he'll be telling us their own perspective from the Secretariat
Yes, and Shego Ezon, Secretary General, Nigerian Union of Railway Workers, will also be joining us. And Baba Aye, HOD, Education Planning and Research of the Medical and Health Workers Union of Nigeria, will also be joining us. Azika, if you're looking at our screens, you see them seated, having a chat and getting ready. We hope there won't be fireworks.
No, well, we hope that they are.
After their meeting on was it on Tuesday or Thursday?
Maybe they went seeking for the elders in the union, past leaders. People like Adams Oshomole, Sumono, Chiroma, and co. So they went seeking them, bringing them back to try to resolve the crisis. And I think they somehow got some kind of truce, and elections will be fixed for March 12th. But if what we heard from one of the contestants at J Road today from Lagos, I'm not sure that reconciliation has gone down well. Anyway, we'll talk about all that much later. Don't go away. When we come back, our interview segment will commence.
Hey, where you? Back there!
Hey, Officer Man, come on. This doesn't happen in the UK.
Yes. Oh yeah, two of you, calm down.
Officer, I beg.
No, don't tell him a bag. Come on, why you
Oh yeah,
begging
Mona, lie down there.
Lie down where?
Officer, where?
I said lie down there.
But my guy, why are you afraid? Are you lying down on the grass?
Lie down now, lie down.
No. Come on, I can't do that, man. See, don't you know me?
If you no lie down now, I go flog you.
Officer, forget it, man. I'm gangster, man. I'm an artist.
I
have three tracks. You want to flog me? Flog me. Come on, flog me, man.
Abdullah.
Flog me.
Abdullah.
Flog me, man.
Give man 12. I say make you lie down. You dey because say you dey phone. Yeah, you dey American. I go kill you today. Talk now. You know me talk now, Abi.
Officer, what I do now? What I do? Officer, not be joking. He follow the play for her. He say make her lie down. Not be to lie down. I'm a wedding grass. Sheep. They been at 6 hours. I don't like that. I dey lie down since night. Lying down is my hobby.
Well, the man was just blowing grammar, when he met the policeman. And when they threatened, the guy spoke in the real language.
Naturally.
Naturally. Well, you're welcome to our interview segment. And we did tell you that the soul of the nation is in crisis, the NLC, and a lot of Nigerians are bothered. And at the O&M Late Show, we want to know what went wrong and how can we move forward. And we are being joined now by the Secretary General of the NLC, Dr. Peter Ozo Ezon. Dr. Ezon, you're welcome.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, you're welcome.
Dr. Ezon,
Thank you.
welcome.
Well, you've been all over. I know how I've chased you all over the world, trying to locate you and even talk to us before the elections. That wasn't possible, but then the elections, then the crisis, and then the reconciliations, the meetings and all that.
Yes.
Well, you are the engine room. What went wrong? What happened?
Well, we had our preparations for the conference. You would recall that in consonance with the Constitution, the contestants were published. The list was published 48 hours after the closure of filing of nominations. Thereafter, there were contestations because there were people who filed whose names were not published. The Credentials Committee rendered reports to the conference and indicated why some people who filed their nominations, their names were not published, because there are constitutional provisions, and their nominations did not conform fully with the provisions of the Constitution. However, the Credentials Committee also, in reporting to the conference, recognized the supreme authority of the conference, because that's the highest organ of Congress, to then take decisions on those cases. And in its wisdom, conference decided that those who filed nominations, but their nominations were not initially accepted, that their nominations then be accepted. And they were accepted. But once that happened,
So
that created
a waiver.
Yes. But
it was the Congress.
It was the Congress. And Article 33 of our Constitution vests the power in the Congress
Okay.
to take whatever decisions, to vary its rules or whatever.
It was legal.
It was.
The waiver.
Yes. Once it was the conference that took that decision, it was legal.
Okay.
But once those decisions were taken, it created a logistic challenge, because ballots had been prepared, ballots had been printed on the basis of the accepted nominations.
Before the Congress.
Before the conference. And so once those amendments to the nominations were made on the floor, the Credentials Committee was faced with the Herculean task of now preparing quickly, at that point, the new ballots that would accommodate those amendments. And the committee announced to the conference that it required, well, about 1 hour to quickly do a reprint of the ballots. Of course, they scampered here and there, got the printers, they did what they had to do. It took, of course, much longer than 1 hour. And they were collating and preparing the ballots and all that. And then started the process of voting. It happened that as people were voting.
So the voting started?
Oh, it started. And it went for hours. It went through the night until morning. Voting was going on. And however, in the process of voting, some delegates saw that there were errors in their ballots, that they saw where there were duplicate names, the same name duplicated. And initially, some of those drew the attention of the returning officer and the chairman of the Credentials Committee, because they were presiding over the election. The political leadership and the secretariat, of course, in order for fairness, by constitution, are not supposed to handle the elections. When those cases arose initially, understand by the report that was given to us by the Credentials Committee, they then looked and, sorry, and this may be 1 or 2 for a union that may have 200 plus delegates. There may be those errors. And they brought them up. And they say, and they will show them to everybody, including the observers, including the registrar of trade unions who was observing. And then say, okay, this is an error, withdraw it and replace it openly. And it went on. But it then came to early in the morning, it came to some union was voting. And that same error was detected, again, not even by the union that was voting, by some other union. And on the spot said, this is it, and raised the alarm, and then disrupted the process.
Yes, Dr. Ezon.
Yes.
Now, a lot of people would say that ordinarily these issues that you've raised would have been easy to resolve, and the Secretariat would have been able to manage this properly and have a successful Congress. There are people who have said that the general elections in Nigeria has now had some effect on Labour and its desire to get new leadership, because the leadership that will emerge can, through some kind of support, either way. And I mean, Nigerians know that one of the governors from Edo State, who you've called to resolve now, is a big wig of the APC. And of course, the PDP too. There have been talks of private meetings. So I don't know, from the Secretariat, tell us what's going on with the political parties and possible interference in NLC affairs.
Well, I can tell you that there has hardly been any NLC election in which political parties or government have not had an interest. But we have prided ourselves historically that those interests have not been allowed to influence the ultimate outcome of the choice of leadership. That's what we've prided ourselves on. And I can tell you that this particular one was not different. Clearly there were interests. But you see, people talk of what happened on the opening ceremony. That's, Comrade Adams came, he came with Buhari and all that. But I think they do not fully understand the process and what happened. We invited to the opening ceremony all the political parties. And that is not the first time we're doing it. If you look at the report of our conferences, the 2011 one, you will see addresses that were given by political parties, PDP and other parties. So in the same tradition, we extended invitation to political parties in the opening ceremony and requested them, if they so chose, to give some initial goodwill message.
Yes.
We also, beyond the political parties, we are in the tradition that we invite the president. And we invited Mr. President to declare the conference open. Having extended those invitations, it is the prerogative of any party to then decide who they send to represent them. The APC sent the presidential candidate in the person of General Buhari to come. And once he came, we had to accord him and give him the platform because we invited the party.
Yes.
There was some initial confusion as to who represented. Well, we never had a formal person say, I'm representing PDP.
Yes.
But we had some confusion as to who represented Mr. President. Stages of the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Labor, then after that, the Minister overseeing the Ministry of Labor, and subsequently the Secretary to Government, who then came and gave a very, to me, mature address, and he declared the conference open. And he explained to us that there was some logistic problem within government, in that it was only that money that the letter was brought to the attention of Mr. President. But we sent that letter at about 2 months before the opening of the conference. So
this level of interest, were they private meetings that the parties had with delegates?
No, I do not know of any private meetings that parties had with delegates. If there were, I would not be aware. But clearly, I don't know of any. If there were private meetings, that would be in the background. It will not be publicly known. It will not be within the structure of our rules.
Yes. Dr. Ezon,
yes.
Your secretariat has also been accused of taking sides.
Well,
of making the platform available to a particular candidate, which of course I'm talking about contestants and I'm not talking about the political parties,
yes.
which led to the initial suspension of some people because they didn't fill their forms well, such mundane reasons for disqualifying candidates.
Yeah. Well,
what was the interest of your secretariat?
No, the secretariat, you see, the secretariat has no role in this matter. I wish you had our constitution here. Because if you look at our constitution, it when it comes to election, it seeks to insulate the secretariat so that the secretariat is not involved in the political
electoral
game.
committee? Who appoints the electoral committee?
The NEC,
Okay, the
National Executive Council, will appoint the Credentials Committee, and the Credentials Committee will report to the conference. That's the Constitution.
Yes.
The role of the Secretariat is to receive the nominations and pass them on to the Credentials Committee.
But I need to jump in here.
Yes, please.
When you talk about the Secretariat,
Yes.
when you spoke earlier on, you talked about the tradition that NLC maintains, the tradition. You kept repeating it.
Yes.
Now, was it not the role of the Secretariat to also maintain tradition in your elections? For instance, what has generated some crisis now is that, I mean, it's not written in your constitution, but it's traditional that if somebody from the private sector is president for 8 years, the next president will come from the public sector.
No.
Is that not not traditional?
No,
with NLC?
I have a duty as the Secretary General of the NLC to place facts. It doesn't matter who is affected, but I have a duty and a responsibility to state the facts correctly.
Okay.
We do not have that tradition. The tradition that we have in the NLC
But
is
if,
that, please,
if we go back.
no, since you
yes.
raise it, I can take you historically.
Okay.
The first president of the NLC as constituted in the modern time was Alhaji Hassan Sumonu. He came from the public sector. The next president was Alhaji Chiroma. He came from the public sector. The next president was late comrade Pascal Bafiao. He came from the public sector. Thereafter, he handed over to Comrade Adams Oshomale. He came from the private sector. The divisions and the tradition you can talk of. I was not even in the NLC then, but I know the history, and it's documented. It was always a contest. Slates were done on the basis of the progressives versus the Democrats. Those were the divisions. They were ideological in the NLC. Okay. So this thing, we need to get history and get them correctly, because it's not who is involved today. It is the future of this movement. Okay. And so if today we want to canvass that we want a new culture, let us so propose it. But even if those were, if you have a tradition that is different from the Constitution, those are not constitutional matters. It's not the duty of the Secretariat to start saying who can run and not run when the Constitution clearly states that these people are free to run. You can do caucusing behind. You can do slates behind. But those should not involve the Secretariat, because we don't want to be drawn into the political arena.
Okay, Doctor. We are making efforts to bring in Peter Esele, who is an elder statesman of the labor movement in Nigeria, to look at this, what people have called the unbecoming development in labor. But you've also tried to get things right. What is the way forward? We've made the mistakes and all that and all that. How do we move? How is labor moving forward now?
Well, you see, to start with, and I think that we have done this already, and we want to repeat it, that we apologize to Nigerians for this very embarrassing situation.
Yes, I think
it is extremely problematic for us. But we want to move forward.
Okay,
and the way to
Dr. Ezon, if I may just, we have Peter Esele on the line now. Yes, Peter, you've been following developments with the NLC. You yourself been very involved in labor union activities. What's your immediate reaction to this whole scenario with the NLC?
I think one of the things I think when Nigerians are looking at it is that we have to know that the NLC, just as the labor movement, also has its own challenges. What has happened is that if you look at the labor movement, because I've been listening to what people have been saying in both the print and the media, The NSC came in, the modern one from 1978. The history of the labor movement is from 1912, which is over 100 years. What we are now doing is that we are now looking at a blip. I called what just happened at the last election as a blip. Yes, it is disappointing, but it's a blip. It's not enough for us now to use that to say the NLC is useless. I've heard a whole lot of series of negative comments about what happened. What happened is unfortunate. It's not something that we all look forward to. We are all not happy about it. But again, we also have to look at it that the NLC is also involving, just like Ezon I've just said, over a period of time, what has been the difference in the labor movement, our differences, is always based on progressive, the conservative, those who look at labor from the communist perspective, and all those who look at it from the democratic perspective. And now what you're having in the movement now, the ideological divide is not there anymore. So as we evolve to get a new ideology to drive the focus of the movement, things like this will come up. So all of these challenges, we also look at it. I think it will now be also very important for the NLC to look at, okay, these are the errors. There are mistakes that have been made. How do we correct these mistakes? It's not how many times that you fall that matters. It's how you rise after the fall. For me, I think a new president will emerge in March. And I also believe that the Secretariat also need to get involved. They also need to look at their constitution very well. Irrespective of how we look at it, human beings must always run a system. I think the office of the Secretary General of the Nigerian Labour Congress must be given a lot more responsibility, not just carrying documents from the credential, receiving documents from the candidates. There should be much more than that. And the Secretary General can accept more responsibility in making sure in the electoral process.
All right, Peter, thank you so much for joining us with your thoughts on this matter. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, Dr. So,
Yes.
the way forward, because
The way forward,
we still have some other guests in the studio.
We have, through the intervention and assistance of our elders in the movement, we have 3 living past presidents. We have 2 living past general secretaries. And we have other elders that have played various roles in our movement. They have come, we have worked together with the NAC, and finally that led to the meeting of NEC that was held on Wednesday. And we have resolved with the contestants, everybody agreed that we would reschedule or resume the conference on the 12th of March. One day, just to take what is left of the conference. Because the conference achieved a lot. We went through the normal, it's just the last bit, which is the election. And so on the 12th, we hope to then conduct that election. And through the discussions and interactions with the elders, Comrade Oshomole, not as governor, but as a former president of the movement, along with Chiroma, with Comrade Hassan Sumonu, Dangiwa was the first general secretary, John Oda, the last general secretary, and some other elders.
So you've agreed to move
all
forward.
work together, and we are now looking forward to a peaceful election, and whoever emerges as the leader, will try to, we will work hard to reclaim the image of the
Well,
thank
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
for your time. A little gift from us.
Wow, I love that. That should be my coffee mug now.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
We'll take a break. When we return, we'll be joined by Shegu Ezon and Baba Aye. Both were at this not very successful election. They'll be joining us in a moment.
I hear in Nigeria, nothing is happening, nothing is working, nothing is making sense. When I look in Nigeria,
I see the economy is growing. Young people have better opportunities. The farmers are rejoicing. Transportation is getting better and better. The roads are better than they have been in a long, long time. So why are they lying? Why are they covering the truth? Where is the integrity? Where is the patriotism? Maybe that's why they don't want to debate. People, think about the truth. Think Nigeria. Vote Goodluck Jonathan for president. This message is brought to you by Wind of Hope.
You're watching the O&M Late Show, and joining us now is Segun Ezon, Secretary General, Nigerian Union of Railway Workers, and Baba Aye, HOD Education Planning and Research of the Medical and Health Workers Union of Nigeria. Gentlemen, you're welcome.
Thank you so very much.
Aye, you're welcome. Please sit down.
Welcome.
Both of you were at the elections, were at the Congress when this election was stalled. Let me start with you, Comrade Aye. What was the problem? Was it, or what? Maybe we should be asking you the way forward, because we hear, or are some people still not comfortable with the way forward that these elders are proposing?
I agree totally with you that the most important thing is the way forward, but as there's a saying in our place that when the child falls, you look forward, and when the elder falls, you look backwards to look at what caused that. Because amongst other things, this kind of situation had never occurred before in the history of the NLC, despite the fact that there had always been contestations during elections. I think an important thing is to remove a sense of desperation about winning. I think that's very important in the way forward. With regards to the way forward, the elders, the unions, the National Executive Council of Congress resolved not only to hold the convention, the elections, but also to work together after the elections, irrespective of what comes out. But to answer your first question, I will say what happened was a desperation to win, and that now led to blowing out of proportions what the General Secretary of Congress just pointed out was anything but what was deemed to have happened. For goodness sake, this was a delegates election, not a general election. And the candidate being accused of, having extra ballots was quite very obviously the more likely to win. And when you knew the number of delegates, there was no way, because if you have even one number higher than the total number of delegates when you collate the votes, it would void the votes. So there was no basis.
Okay, Segun Ezon, he said something now that probably what has led to all this is some level of desperation to win. All of a sudden, why has it become so important that a particular person must win?
Thank you very much. Let me take it from this angle. You see, we have earlier foreseen this coming up quite many months ago. What? I mean, from the perspective of my own union, which is the Nigeria Union of Railway Workers, we saw such thing happening, and in order to avert it, what we did was to constitute a forum called the Labour Interactive Forum. And precisely on the 7th of January 2014, we had...
More than a year ago.
You are very correct. We had a coming together of clearly over and above, 26, 27 trade unions, all coming together to look at what we have foreseen and, trying to provide solutions ahead of time. And just as we were right in that stream, we had another similar forum coming up, which is Unity Forum. And the fact that we could see that we shared more or less the same ideology, tilting towards making sure that we don't run the Congress into the problem we have foreseen, we had to, join even in the Unity Forum, where at the end of the day, it was resolved that the presidency should be zoned to the private sector. And let me quickly add, the Unity Forum is attended by general secretaries as well as presidents general of all the affiliates union. So there isn't anybody that is left out. So it's as good as saying the Congress actually gave legitimacy to the Unity Forum. So they succeeded in doing the zoning, and to the private sector they had 7, including the presidency, and to the public sector they had 9. Ideally, we expected that everybody should conform with the that kind of gentleman agreement.
But it was broken.
It was broken, and that actually served as the genesis of the problem. And eventually, when we got into the election, so many things came up. The election actually was in session. Then people started complaining of one error, one, different kind of what actually were not expected to happen there. So one will now have to sit down and begin to think and say, it appears as if the leadership of the Congress was actually aware, and of course was kind of deliberately choosing to run the election into a stalemate. Because even as the Secretary General of the Congress has said, you see, when you did multiple, production of ballot papers, you should have your quality control that would have checked all these, excesses, that would have checked all these errors.
But like the Secretary General said, there was really no time because of the waiver that was granted very close to the election, 1 or 2 hours before the election, which necessitated printing of more ballot papers. But Babayi, this accord which Segun is talking about, was your own union part of it?
That's a very good question. I think this myth of an accord, it loses sight of something that is at the heart of a trade union, which is that trade unions are bottom-up organizations. For example, we were there as delegates of our different unions. Yes. The membership of NLC are affiliate unions. It comprises of affiliate unions. And affiliate unions have decisions and processes, mechanisms for reaching decisions. The decision for the president of Medical and Health Workers Union of Nigeria to contest the office of NLC president was not a decision of the president. It was a decision of the National Executive Council of the union, comprising of all state council chairmen, all state council secretaries, all state women committee chairpersons, the youth member of our union. He couldn't just unilaterally. So what he did, he reported back the view reached at that meeting
of the
in
Unity
December.
Forum.
And the NEC was like, no, this is the union position. So the trade union is not where somebody at the top as president gives orders.
Yeah,
it was debated.
If I get you correctly, you were part of this
earlier decision,
the Unity Forum, but went back and consulted your own union members.
No, I'm saying that the Unity Forum could not have reached a decision over and above the decision making. It vitiates the process of internal democracy itself. Because the people that were there were representatives. They had to report back. And the essence of trade unionism is report back and mandate seeking.
No, but when you got back, when your president got back,
and reported to your union.
To the National Executive
To the National
Council
Executive of your union.
Yes.
Did you communicate the Unity Forum to say that the Medical Workers Union are not part of this?
In the first place, the issue of the Unity Forum. Right now at the Unity Forum, we talked about private, even within the private sector, you have two unions coming out. And when the decision of the NEC was taken, with Meun as a member of the NLC, being the resolution of its appropriate decision-making mechanism, it submitted the form of the president.
Okay, gentlemen, I'll go back to my first question. You know, a lot of people are embarrassed by what has happened with labor. A lot of people are disappointed. Like I said when we started, we all see labor as the soul, the conscience of the nation. And when this happens with labor, then it's cause for concern. Gentlemen, what is the way forward? We know mistakes have been made. How do we move forward so that labor will still remain the labor that represents all our interests? Because we're all members of labor, and we believe so much in what labor can do to help workers in Nigeria. How do we go?
Well, as regards the way forward, it is my pleasure to inform you that we have actually brokered a way forward.
Okay.
As the Secretary of the Congress has earlier said, the veterans, the past leaders, including the current governor of Edo State and many others, actually joined us. In fact, they presided over the meeting we had on Wednesday, this very last Wednesday week, where we had the emergency NEC meeting. It was resolved, and a date was chosen that the inconclusive part of the delegate conference will be put to rest. And we chose 12th of March this year. And having had that, we are not going to see that as being an issue that has already been, rested. What I mean by that is we are still very much concerned. Those of us that are progressives, that are really having the love of the Congress at heart, because that is the soul of the Nigerian worker and the only instructive organization that is non-governmental that can face anybody, any institution on behalf of Nigerian workers. And this is why we are still not relenting on our oars to ensure that the person that gets to the saddle is somebody that will be generally accepted, that of course does not have any, hitch around his neck.
Were the modalities agreed on by
yes.
everyone?
By everyone.
So there are parameters that will be adhered to when this conference resumes?
By everyone.
How about you?
Very good. I think one important thing with regards to moving forward is to do away with the construct of the myth of a public-private sector divide, especially for that to come up. I'm happy with what the General Secretary said, that if you want to establish traditions, that's a different matter. But if you want to establish such traditions, it is not when elections are around the corner. Otherwise, it becomes a stratagem. And he's from the NUR. That's Imodu's union, labor leader #1. When you think of Pa Michael Imodu, do you think of him as private sector or public sector? No, you think of him as workers' leader. I think the substratum of divide is between the working class and the bosses. It is not for us to be playing up private sector the way the bosses, when they are playing general politics, play up ethnicity and religion.
Okay, we're out of time now, but must take the gloves off so that it becomes very bare. People can understand very well. Baba, you represent the interest of Baba Yuba.
Medical and Health Workers Union of Nigeria, unabashedly,
who Ayuba is, one of the contestants Ayuba is from. And of course, Shegun, the representing interest of Ajero. Totally. Yeah. So just a minute each to tell us, why do you think that Ayuba, for instance, will make a better NLC president?
I would say that
in 1 minute.
His sterling track record speaks for itself. Ayuba turned around Medical and Health Workers Union of Nigeria from a union that had barely 5 delegates at the 2003 NLC Delegates Conference to one with 537 delegates through organizing, through investment that saw to the union that was paying about 150,000 naira as its annual check-off dues to the Nigerian Labour Congress, now paying about 180 million. And I think it's by hard work, dint of hard work and mobilization. And not only that, he's the chairperson of JOESU. He shows how he unifies. See the way it has unified health sector workers in the struggle for a better health sector.
I think, you summarized that. He's a game changer.
That's the right thing.
Yeah, okay, Shegun. Ajero.
Ajero, to me, is an institution everybody should have to believe in. Number one, he led the NEPA staff, the PHCN staff, into negotiation when they were into privatization and succeeded in winning for them a very good deal. Today and now, an average PHCN staff is a millionaire because they are fully paid. And not only getting fully paid, they are still at work. Then apart from that, if you look at the order of hierarchy in the Congress as it is now, you will see that Ajero is the deputy president. And if you look at 3 past leaderships away, you will see that it has been the tradition of the president, the outgoing president, handing over to the deputy president.
All right, I guess we have to leave it.
Gentlemen, as you leave here, we urge you to ensure that our labor, our NLC, gets back on track.
The labor of our leaders.
Thank you so much.
Shall not be vain.
All right.
Very certain.
Shegun, well,
thank you.
Every guest on the show,
we have
we'll go
this
with
little.
Thank you so much.
I was a guest on the O&M Late Show.
Get it coffee blackened soon.
All right, Baba.
All right,
thank you.
Thank you
so
guys.
much. All right.
Well, it looks like there'll be a truce.
Eventually, hopefully, we will have a truce with
the candidates are still struggling, but I think at the end of the day, whoever wins will be acceptable to everyone.
So you now understand me very well when I said earlier on that it ended like a PDP APC affair. Well, this is where we draw the curtain on the O&M Late Show for tonight. My name is Mahmoud Akura. Thank you so much for watching us.
I'm Obiora. If you didn't start with us, remember you can go to our online TV portal, www.hblnews.com, to watch our old programs and know what time it is around the world, because we have the latest news. I am Obiora Ilo. Let's do it again.
On Sunday. 2 p.m.
2 p.m.